Welcome. To borrow Cheech's phrase, we've upgraded from Cheech to Lance.
Oh, yes.
He's been saying that in his other
know.
videos. So
he thinks it's an upgrade.
turnabout's fair play.
Well, and I've upgraded to Curtis.
Yeah, we've got a new
So
person in that seat, Spencer.
Dang.
And
Upgrades all around.
We are upgraded to full out. We've got it made. So today, we're starting. This is probably one of the bigger streaks of podcasts. Like we had Roger in again on entomology. We had Joe Goodspeed. We've had the AJ and Madison. So for you podcast listeners, we're rolling with it. So share it and like it. We can get a little bit more momentum. And my dogs are roaming around in here. I just hope they don't decide to use the soundproof carpet as a bathroom.
There is no bathroom stall in here, dogs.
They won't. They're good. Gwynnie lies down. Zeppelin, sit down. Okay, so for those of you that have been living under a rock, the last few episodes Lance was absent, mostly because Lance wasn't here. We had so many people ask, oh, wait, where's Lance? Like, don't worry, he's still around, but
fell off a cliff.
Fell off a cliff and was severely injured. That reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where George and Kramer went with the guy mountain climbing and they missed a knot or something, and the guy falls and just horribly like disfigured. No, that didn't happen.
No, I
That was
did
a good
not really
episode,
fall
though.
off a cliff.
no
Back
injuries.
off,
No
bro.
injuries.
No injuries.
Okay, good.
But yeah, let's start by explaining where you have been
Well, I have been here and there and
everywhere
no, definitely
across
not
the
everywhere.
world.
Well, let's see. Earlier in the summer, late summer, I guess, I went to Bolivia. I chased golden dorado for the first time, which was really cool, really fun. Amazing experience in the jungle. I went to Samani Lodge, one of their lodges anyway, and my first time ever chasing golden dorado, so it was quite an experience.
Yeah. What was your favorite thing about that species?
My favorite thing about the species, probably just their explosive bad attitude, I think. I
Yeah,
don't know how to
like
put it any
they're
better than
mean.
that. They are mean. They want to kill the fly when they decide
yeah.
to eat it. They really freight train it, and then they take to the air, sometimes repeatedly. Their fight was short, I would describe it, but fierce.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the same. And you were from shore mostly. The
Yeah.
Simane Lodge is more of a walk-in kind of fish,
You-
smaller rivers.
Small, wadable rivers for the most part. You take boat rides up or down river in little kind of wood canoe type stuff with some natives. And then from there, sometimes you fish from the boats, but more often you get out from the boat, beach the boat and walk some pools and structure and get out and fish. So it's a little different experience than, say, the marsh where you spent some time last year.
So fly size,
Fly size, I would say, was 5 to 8 inch long flies, somewhere in
pretty good,
there.
though.
I mostly
Those are
fish
fun.
probably 6.5, 7
Yeah.
inch flies.
Throwing 8 weights.
8s and 9s, yeah. Just to make the flies easier to throw. Sometimes it was nice to throw a little heavier line.
Yeah, so I think for us when we went, and you can see our videos, we'll put a link down below or you can search it up on our YouTube channel, but we did a full week last year, which is where Cheech is today. In case you were wondering, I'm sure people would ask. He is in Argentina right now.
So both people that care.
Oh,
Zinger.
ouch.
Maria, if you're watching, we know where he is.
Yeah, so Cheech is with our group in Argentina. They're doing the Paraná River, which is a giant river. And then the other half, they're in a marsh kind of area off the river. It's a new lodge, but quite a bit different than the Bolivian experience where this one you're flying into pretty much a major airport. We do have little commuter flights that can kind of ferry you to, depending on where we go. And then you're fishing out of skiffs the whole time. So it's different. Paraná River is kind of cool because you're going after literally biggest Dorado anywhere. I mean, they're huge. But the marsh is probably more akin size-wise and kind of that. But now that was the thing that blew me away was like if you got a fish coming after your fly, I mean, you could see them coming a lot of times. And then just the crazy hits. And then sometimes they wouldn't get hooked very well. but you'd set, miss, and they'd come around. They just want it, like they would just want to kill whatever.
Yeah, they
it
wanted
was.
to kill it for sure. It was cool. Where I was, you didn't see a lot of them coming to the fly unless you're fishing in a feeding frenzy. Then you could sight fish some, but most of the fish we just fished to structure, to drop offs around large boulders, along flooded trees and things like that on the edges of the river. Kind of cool though, in that it was. I mean, you feel like, other than the water temperature, you could be on a mountain river for trout, basically. Water temperature's higher, of course. But it had riffles and runs and pocket water and pools, and it was a very cool experience from that standpoint. And then also just being in the jungle, the animals, the noises, the not knowing whether you're going to live or die, or
whether that jaguar's going to take
jaguar's going to get you on the back of the neck, or the bushmaster snake's going to take you out, or the caimans are there.
Bats? Are there bats there?
You love bats, don't you?
No.
Nope. There are not only bats there, but one of them made it home with me in my bag.
Oh yeah, why don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I know. I think the natives played a joke on me personally, but I got home and had a dead bat in my carry-on bag that was clearly on my back the whole way home. Made it through all kinds of security scans. So TSA, you guys didn't see what you should have seen. I was harboring something unknowing to me, but unknowingly harboring a dead bat in the back of my bag. So I got home and was unloading my bag, and there's a little pouch on the outside of my Sims waterproof backpack that it's basically a net sheath is what it's designed to do, but I had some things stuffed in there, and I went to pull things out and felt something fuzzy that I wasn't expecting, and out pops a bat onto my kitchen floor. So,
and that's where you got that new strain of COVID.
and that's where so if you missed me in the shop for weeks afterward, I got a strange sickness that I didn't get sick.
With some additional powers.
No, I don't
Did
have
you
any
dispose
extra
of it
powers.
correctly?
I believe so. I got it in a plastic bag and threw it away.
Okay.
Yeah. I took it to your complex.
You better not have.
Yeah. I should have left it in a paper bag on your doorstep. That would have been funny. Then you would have had a complex. He already does. He doesn't like bats.
I don't like bats.
They are scary.
They're creepy.
I've caught a couple
No.
before.
They're not so
Yeah.
bad. The worst part about the whole thing was it flopped out on the floor, and right then my son walks out of the other room and sees it. My wife's down the hall in another room, and he goes, "Is that a bat?" And I'm like, "Shut up!" My wife from 3 rooms down, "Did somebody say bat?" No, nothing to see
saying
here.
hi to your cat.
She's freaking out. There's a bat in our house. It's dead. It's gonna be fine. I had to Clorox wipe like the whole kitchen, but everything was fine.
No rabies or COVID
Oh,
that you know
man.
of.
Nothing yet. I think we're okay. We're as normal as we've ever been, which isn't very normal.
That's concerning.
So yeah, that was an interesting story, but it was a fun thing that happened. But yeah, it was really cool. Just, I mean, the bird noises, all the things that happen in the jungle were, it was something I'll never forget for sure. It was really cool. Thanks, shout out to my main man Jerry Arnold that invited me on the trip. That was really cool. An experience I will probably never get to do again. So
What's
fun.
what's the lodge like?
The lodge is like it's built on stilts, so it's got I guess they have a couple of framed, more cabin style, like the place where you eat and where they're cooking the meals and things is more framed, and then there's small little individual, you could call them cabins. They're like what are those heavy duty tents, like I can't come up with the
Springbar?
name.
Like a wall tent?
Like
A
a
wall
wall
tent,
tent. That's
yeah.
it. That's a big word for me. A wall tent. I like bats. I can't say wall. They're basically like wall tents, but with like a grass roof over the top of them. So you had a bed, and you weren't. I never even saw a mosquito the whole time I was
How was
there.
the pool
Wow.
though?
The pool did not exist. The pool was the river, which was just down the grade a little bit. Yeah, but it was actually, considering where you are. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the jungle. A charter flight to a grass landing pad, another flight on a smaller plane to another grass landing pad, and then by boat to the lodge. You are in the middle of nowhere, and given that you're in the middle of nowhere, the accommodations are actually quite nice.
Yeah, I would say that pretty much holds true to a lot of the lodges, at least fly fishing centric lodges that you can see. So, which is good.
Yeah, they're not cheap, right? So
Yeah.
you're not camping in a Coleman tent in the middle of a jungle, but you are in a tent of sorts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. I would say anybody considering Dorado, if you have the opportunity, I'd go for it. It's extremely unique. Like I said, the fish, it's incredible. The power and just the ferocity that they will attack a fly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like what I would say easy fishing.
No.
You're casting a lot. You're casting big flies, bigger rods, and covering a lot of water. But man, it is.
Yeah, it's rewarding though. If you put in some time and you put in some effort, I think I'm with you. People really like it. They reminded me of they're like brown trout on steroids. They were bigger, they were taller, they were broader, they were more toothy, but they hung out in a lot of the same places. They would attack a streamer just the second it hit the water in shallows, right on an edge on a drop off in a river, just like a brown trout would. They'd be in among big rocks and sunken logs and all that kind of stuff. They were a very, very cool fish, very fun to chase, and I barely know anything about them. They would eat dry flies too. Santi, one day, one of the guides there had me fishing some more or less like Moorish mouse type stuff, except really big, and not even skating them so much as just, although you can skate them, but just fishing them dead drift, like a little critter just floated, just like you throw a chubby Chernobyl on a river in the West. Same thing, but the Dorado would come up, and someone would even come up and like look at it and sit underneath it and then reject it, and others would take a swipe at it. It was
the
pretty
Green
cool.
River.
Like the Green River.
The more gentlemanly Dorado.
Yes, very
I don't think I will eat that one.
Very fun though, very cool fish. Like Curtis said, if you haven't chased them and you have the opportunity, they're not local to us in the U.S., so you got to travel a bit, but that's a really cool fish.
Yeah, and if you're interested in going on a trip with us, we go every October. Next opening will be a year from now. But yeah, hit us up. So, Dorado, let's talk about what Spence and I did this summer.
Awesome.
Yeah. So this summer, another plug for Jimmy's, our Jimmy's location up in Idaho Falls. We kind of split duties. Cheech took the task of helping get that one started after we purchased it from Jimmy, and that was end of May. So Spence and I were kind of on the filming crew most of the summer. We stuck to mostly high elevation stuff. We did a really fun we'll call it bike packing, fishing adventure that we just released a video for yesterday. Search that one up on our YouTube channel. That's a cool one. We also ran into some big storms on the mountains. We
never got stuck though.
We never
got high centered on any big rocks or anything.
Did you stay late enough to find any bats?
No, I never do.
The first sign of a bat, Spence was out.
Yeah, Spence he's even taken the label off his water because he doesn't like free advertising. But if anybody has any like free Batman stickers you could send to the shop, he'd like to put them on his water bottle.
If you've ever fished with me and you hear, "Hey, I'll meet you back at the truck," it's because I saw a bat.
Even if it's broad daylight?
Doesn't matter.
It was just roosting?
There are bats in those trees. Don't go near them.
So you didn't stay late enough to see any bats, and you didn't get stuck, but you did catch some
We actually,
fish.
for one of the trips we went on, we got to a crazy chironomid hatch. That was just nuts.
That was one we're going to do again in this.
Yeah, that was, I've never seen them that thick before, ever.
Yeah. Colorado cutthroats going nuts for incredible chironomid
And we're in our
hatch.
tubes, and fish are like 2 feet from us, swimming around our tubes. They didn't even care that we were there.
They were just going crazy. Just any chironomid they could see in the surface, just below the surface. They were just sharking them. Crazy stuff. Washing line technique did pretty good. They were pretty picky though. Like you would think, oh wow, this is going to be a slaughter.
You had one come up on your booby.
Yeah, I fished
on top.
I fished my setup was most of the time was a booby on point, and then I don't think I ever switched over my floating line, so I had a midge tip, booby on point, and then 2 chironomids as droppers, and I did have one eat and got him. He ate the booby as a dry, and then a couple others would swipe at it, but that was one of the best chironomid hatches I've ever been a part of. And after talking to other people, that lake is pretty well known, or at least very consistent like that in early summer.
Yeah. We got to go do that one again.
Yeah, and like that would be a good one for like how to fish chironomids video, because you'll see it literally all from pupa to adults and
Start to
everything
finish.
in between. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun. So we during the summer, at least while Cheech was up in Idaho, we did do some floats up there, and then, but yeah, down here we stuck to mostly high elevation stuff. A couple river adventures. We didn't do YouTube videos for everything, but
No.
it was a lot of fun.
Chased some tigers down south one time.
Chase some tigers.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good trip.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I caught all the rainbows. Curtis caught all the tigers.
Yeah.
The big tigers.
Spence was just kind of cleaning the way.
I was just getting them out of the
Get
way
cookie
for
cutter
you.
rainbows. Move those to the side, please. And then, we got some really nice tigers. That was a blast. And then at the end of the summer, well, let's see. Worlds was after Bolivia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bolivia, then 2 or 3 weeks, and then World Championships for me.
So tell us about that. Where was it?
World Championships were in Slovakia this year. They were also there in 2017, so it was a place we'd been before, stayed in the same hotel as before. Not all the venues are exactly the same, but many of the same venues. It is a competition that both times I've participated in, it totally kicked our butts. I think it was in 2017, I think it was the worst finish we'd had as a team in a decade or so.
Oh, wow.
And this year was very similar. We did a little better. I think we were 14th as a team. I don't remember how many were there in 2017, probably 28 or 30 teams, something like that. And we were 14th. This year we ended up in 11th place. We tied with the English by placing points, but they had us in fish points, so we ended up getting kicked from, we were hoping for top 10. Our first day was really brutal. First full day was really bad. Second day was still pretty bad. We dug us a pretty big hole, and our goal changed from, top 3, top 5 to let's see if we can crack the top 10. And we almost did, but not quite. We did have some pretty rough draws. I think I know Devin has gone through some of the beats and has found that we did have some pretty rough draws, but every team had some rough draws. And I think the bottom line for me is it's consistent that when Team USA goes to places that are mostly grayling, I think I caught in the competition, like 4 or 5 trout. The rest of them were grayling. And when that's the case, we don't usually do very well.
Yeah, because the fishing with grayling in the rivers, because we have them here, but there's not as many in rivers.
Yeah.
And they're different subspecies.
Yeah, we have Arctic grayling there. We have the Thymallus arcticus. They have Thymallus thymallus. They are different. How different, I don't really know. But yeah, I think what you're alluding to, for me, I wish I knew the differences.
Yeah.
We just don't get to fish for them enough. But it seems like they hang in different water types than we're used to. There's some in the same trout water. I don't know what to say about them because I don't know what I don't know, right? With them, we catch them. We were catching tons of them in pre-fishing. We were actually all feeling really confident. But then when we got to the venues, we were still catching fish. It wasn't like we were blanking left and right. We just weren't catching as many as the top tier teams were.
Yeah.
And when it's trout, we've still never won the World Championships, but we've medaled a couple times. And when it's mostly a trout game, I feel like we have a good shot at being in the top 5 for sure. If we're out of the top 10 and it's trout, then we really underperformed with grayling. That hasn't been the case for us. So as much as we tried and as much as we wanted to finish higher, based on the hole we dug the first day or two, to get close to cracking the top 10 was actually quite a feat for us. I wouldn't say we felt good about it because it's not where we wanted to end up, but all things considered, it's a tough venue for us, and there's always next year, right?
There is, maybe.
Maybe. Well, there's always next year, whether or not we go or whether or not I go or whether or not the team's the same, who knows. But
So how's it set up? How many beats do you fish per day, and how many days is the competition?
So they changed it a few years ago. You fish 1 beat per day, but you're fishing 1 venue per day, and it's 5 days of competition. So, but what they've done this year, and they tried to do it last year too, is that they split beats. So you draw a beat. Like if you draw beat number 1, you'd fish beat 1 for an hour and a half, and then you would switch and go to beat 2, where somebody else was on beat 2, and you're just flip-flopping with another country, which some people like, some people don't. I kind of don't like it. I'd rather just get your random beat. The idea is that if you drew a really bad beat on beat 1 and beat 2 was a little better, then you wouldn't be stuck on beat 1 the whole time, or vice versa.
Yeah.
The problem is usually what happens is it's not like beat 1 is really good and beat 2 sucks, or the other way around. It's usually like the top beats are really good and the bottom beats are terrible. Beat 30 is dramatically different than beat 1. Yeah. So if you swapped like from beat 1 to beat 26, that might change things a lot. Going from 1 to 2 doesn't usually change things. The water types of water and character to the water doesn't change very much in a few hundred yards, generally speaking. So to me, you got a short window to try and fish a pretty long beat, and you just have to power fish it as fast as you can, kind of inefficiently, because you're just trying to learn as much as you can about the beat and target the best water you can in an hour and a half, and then you have like 30 minutes to gather all your gear and get reset up on the next beat and try and scout it, so you can try and figure out where to fish it and hope to not just fish exactly where the last person fished and so on. So personally, I'd rather just you get your beat and live by it, Yeah.
So it's an hour and a half per beat.
Yeah, sometimes 2 hours. It depends on where you were and that sort of thing. But yeah, hour and a half, 2 hours per beat, and then you would flip-flop to the next in the neighboring beats. And then, over the course of 5 days, so it's scored by placing points in each of the 5 sessions. So if you took first place in all 5 sessions, you'd have 5 placing points. And then you have fish points that you get points for every centimeter of fish you catch. So overall, your goal is to have the lowest placing points and the highest fish points. And so lowest placing points trumps everything. If there's a tie in placing points, then fish points breaks that tie.
I think what they should do is like you get, like in Uno, you get one of those reverse cards. Mm-hmm. So if you realize you're going to get swapped to a different bad beat, you just play the reverse card.
I'd rather have a skip card. Like
nice.
Draw 4.
Yeah.
Like my
Draw 4. You lose 4
beat,
flies.
My Orava beat, I drew a chub beat. I didn't see any grayling on it. It was murky as could be, but it was totally flat water and just weeded, totally full of weed. And I would have used a skip card on that one for sure. It was pretty terrible. The only place I caught 2 chubs in that session, and the only 2 fish I caught were right where some raw sewage came into the river.
There was
nice. Toilet paper shreds all over the weed beds in that area.
That's so
and there were some pretty big chubs. In fact, I think as I went through the list, I had one of the, it wasn't the biggest, but it was like in the top 4 or 5 largest fish caught in the competition. And it was a chub that was eating finless brown trout, I think, because it was not really, but it was they were a little school of chub right where
just extra nutrition,
right where the nutrients were entering the river. Let's call them.
There's truth to that.
It was pretty
nasty.
Gross. Yeah, pretty. I think embarrassing that was a beat. Embarrassing that you'd use that kind of water. I don't know. I haven't enjoyed. Slovakia has dealt me my 2 worst individual finishes by like more than 20 placings compared to anywhere else I've been. So Slovakia, sorry guys,
double thumbs
down. Beautiful country.
How was the food?
Más o menos. Food was okay.
How was the food in Bolivia?
Food in Bolivia was good.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, they took good care of you.
Like regional, or did they do?
Yeah, there was some regional. Yeah. More regional than American stuff for sure. And not like we experienced at Spring Creek Lodge in Argentina, but they have to boat and fly the food in and run everything on diesel generators, so it's a little more limited. But again, given those are the conditions you're making stuff in, it was actually really good.
But in Slovakia, the food was just. What do you think? It's just the style of food there.
Like what kind of food? Like what did you eat?
I couldn't even tell you what we ate.
That's what.
Was there rice?
Yeah, they had rice.
Okay.
They had rice.
So Lance is okay.
I survived. They had rice. They had potatoes. They had meat every day. They always had some salad stuff. I mean, the food wasn't terrible. It's not like it's bad food. It just was mediocre, bland.
Yeah.
Nothing I wouldn't go there for food. That's for sure.
Okay, I've never heard go to Slovakia for food. So
have you heard go to Slovakia for anything?
No, honestly, sorry, Slovakia.
It's a pretty place.
Like food places that I would love to go to, Turkey, but I don't know if you can fish there. South Korea, I think would be really cool. I've been there a couple times, but that's really good food place. Argentina's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think Slovakia is known for its food.
No.
I know some of the surrounding countries, they go there for high numbers. We did catch a lot of grayling.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one venue we were pretty fishing on that I would say everybody in the group was catching at minimum 60 or 70 fish a day and probably more like 100.
Which
there were a lot. They were mostly small, but you could catch large quantities
like
of
I would
fish.
say that's one thing if people that maybe poo-poo the competitions, excuse the pun, on one beat. or just in general with Euro nymphing. But I mean, you have to hand it to the competitive side of things, because I think it accelerates a lot of the fine tuning of techniques and approaches to catching fish. And I would be hard pressed to find, at least in an area like that, where just Joe Schmo fly fisherman's going to go in and like even come close to touching the numbers that you guys are probably seeing.
Yeah, not the numbers that I saw, but
Well,
maybe
yeah.
the good anglers.
What was the difference between the pre-fish water and the competition water?
Well, some of it was the same. Some of it, well, not the exact same water, but the same rivers. Others, some of the rivers didn't have very much fishable water outside of what they had allotted for the competition. They don't let you pre-fish the exact beats you're going to fish in the competition. So you'd find tributaries to those rivers, or sometimes just another drainage over or something like that you'd fish. But I mean, there were fish there. Again, we were still catching. I don't know what all my teammates were catching. In my better sessions, I was still in the 20 range, 20 fish in 3 hours sort of a thing. The fish were there. They just, one of the better beats that I had anyway, I thought, as far as water types, in my opinion, it looked good. I think I caught 20 something, maybe 19. I can't remember what it was, but roundabouts 20, let's call it. And the guy that fished it very first, I think, was a Czech, and he got like 40 in it. And then I think everybody else ended up in the 20s, something like that. So it dropped off precipitously after the first guy fished it, but it kept producing quite a bit of fish. But yeah, that's pretty normal, right? The first person usually catches the most. But also, I don't remember exactly which competitor it was, but I would wager that I would bet that if he had fished it in the middle or at the end, because he understands grayling and he understands water types they're in and that sort of thing better than I'd have to go through, and maybe there was another competitor that fished that same beat that would have that kind of knowledge. But I'll bet that most of the other competitors were more like myself, where they fished for grayling this much compared to a person that's fished for them their whole life.
Yeah.
And I would bet that if that same Czech angler fished it in the middle or near the end, he'd still probably catch the most, or near, maybe second most.
Yeah.
Instead of being the rest of us that fished it were probably within a few fish of each other. I mean, I know there were more fish than I landed. I missed a bunch more. I saw more. There were some fish rising that I would get to eat and hook them and lose them, or they wouldn't eat a dry fly that the dry flies that I had prepared, ready to go. Some of them didn't like that, or there were some that were just barely out of my beat. There was a barrier that, where your flag is, and there was a nice soft little riffle that had a few fish just 3, 4, 5 feet out of where I could fish.
Man.
There's always that. There are more fish to be caught, but who knows? The differences are, I wish I knew.
Are you using similar flies that you would use here for trout?
A lot of times, yeah, but we take fly tying stuff there. We're adapting to what we find the fish are feeding on there, and flies that are effective for us there. We're tying like crazy every night, trying to prepare for that. A lot of the same flies. I'm always a believer the fly can make a small difference, but not a dramatic difference. For me, it's more a water type and technique. And on my last session, I asked the controller. They're not allowed to tell you anything beforehand, but after the competition was over, since I was the last one to fish it, and he'd been on that beat from watching all 5 anglers, I just asked him, because I'm always trying to learn from the experience. I said, hey, what were and this guy spoke really good English, so I had a good opportunity. I said, what were the differences you saw between, the very best angler that fished it and the rest of us that all had about the same results? And he said, number one, he said, everybody fished too far away. The Czech guy knew to fish really close to him. He says the grayling are not easily spooked by the angler that's waiting, and most of us come from a trout background where we're trying to kind of fish at the limits of where we can fish and still get perfect drifts. He said he felt like the Czech guy fished really close to him, which made it so he got much better strike detection and could hook and land the fish really quickly without them coming off. And I think he just knew the water types to go in, when I was done, he said he said I fished a lot of the right water, but one of the other anglers he said that fished really well, but he said he fished all the trout spots, where places you'd find trout. And he said he was the one that caught the most trout on that beat. He caught one big rainbow, I remember him telling me, but he didn't catch very many grayling, because he wasn't fishing the grayling water. I don't think I caught a trout in that session, but I might have, maybe one. But the grayling I did catch, I felt like there were way more there than what I ended up finding.
Well,
such is life.
It's a good point, though, that you would take the time after to at least get some intel. which that reminds me, like when we go and fish places, we fished a couple places this year that I've kind of taken notes from previous years. And even if I'm all done, just to note down, oh, hey, guess what? Today they were eating scuds or whatever, or even taking throat samples, but making notes, because you always think, hey, next time I go there, I'll remember what happened, but you don't.
Yeah.
So for like what I do is I'll actually just take a picture, and then if it's insect related, I'll have a folder or whatever. But you can always look back at your pictures and kind of let the pictures tell the story if you've got stuff. But that's always good, before you leave the water.
Yeah, to me, I mean, competition angling has its pundits, right? I mean, it's not for everybody. But one of the things that I really liked about it is that it's helped me grow as an angler, and it forces you, it gives you a measuring stick. Like you go there and you go to a place like Slovakia and you come back with your tail tucked between your legs and you go, I still have got a ton of learning to do, which I knew ahead of time, but I didn't maybe realize I had that much learning to do still. I've chased grayling quite a few times in the World Championships now, and I feel like I'm building on that knowledge base versus I remember my very first one was in Finland, and I felt like a fish out of water then. I lucked into probably more grayling than I really skillfully caught. But I mean, to me, that's one of my biggest takeaways that motivates me to competition fish is just finding out what you don't know and then trying to learn that and tackle those hurdles as you learn about them and learn new techniques. Staying on the cutting edge of things has been very fun. And, for me, that's just one of the things that drove me in that particular discipline is just learning.
Which I would say, this is a PSA for everybody out there that fishes. I think you will find, if you are cognizant, like if you're self-aware of where your limitations are and like what you need to improve on, or finding these things out, like, oh, next time I go, whatever. I think I've seen too many anglers that get caught in this like zone of, I'm pretty good. I'm looking around, nobody else is catching fish except me. I've got it made. Where they don't realize, number one, that that's not ever true usually. Because you're not going to see everybody catch their fish, but to assume that you've kind of pinnacled, and because you'll have people come in the shop and slayed him today, like, oh wow, you catch a lot of fish. I caught 3. That's like my best, which for them maybe it is.
It was their best and was a really fun day, right?
Yeah. So not to take that away, but at the same time, if you're in your own little world and thinking, oh, I've pinnacled and this is the best it could be. You're talking to Lance, who's fished however many competitions like that, but still getting after it to learn and improve.
Sure.
I think that's something that everybody can take away is don't quit learning.
No, it's the same as always. You don't know what you don't know, right? Yeah. Until you stick your neck out there and try something different or go to a new place and risk not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
If you go to the same rock and the same run on the same river and every time, you know that spot really well, but you don't know much else.
Yeah, that gets a little old.
We get a lot of people in the shop. Well, not a lot. We get a few people that ask how they can get involved because they know you go to these competitions, and like if someone came into the shop and asked you, hey, how do I get involved in like fly fishing team USA or competitions? How do I get started?
You go to flycomps.com and you get a membership for the team, and then it basically they'll send emails, and you can get on Facebook groups and things like that tell you about local events. There's basically a system in place that has it by region. So depending on where you live in the country, you would be competing in a small area, a little cluster of states. And then if you do well in that little cluster of states in minis and regionals, then you move to interregionals where, everybody meets. And then after kind of a whole cycle of minis and regionals and interregionals, we have a national championship. And then after all that's said and done, there's a point system that helps you make the team. But to get started in it, you just have to go stick your neck out and go to a competition and try it, which not very many people want to do, but a few people are interested.
Yeah.
They do what are called mini comps, which are usually 1 day, sometimes 2 day events that are probably they're the simplest to get involved in. There's not a lot of prep work that you have to do. You don't have to worry about a lot of lodging or travel far away. Most of the minis are hopefully at least in a state near you, so you're not flying across the world. But that's the easiest way to get involved in it and just dip your feet in the competition scene and see if it's something you like. It seems like many people try it, not many people like it. a few do, and those that really love it, then they usually grow in it. But it's not for everyone, that's for sure.
I remember the first time I fished a regional.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the meeting at the
Yep.
hotel, and they were going through all the rules. And first was no split shot,
Mm-hmm.
and half the group was like, "What? No
Mhm.
split shot? What?" And then no indicators. Same people. What? We can't use indicators. So right off the bat, I'm sure they had no idea how to fish.
Yeah, that's
The way you fish in competition.
which was funny because I know in that particular one I'd organized it, and I sent an email to everybody saying, here's the rules, I suggest you read up on them. And then you get in the meeting the night before and nobody's read any of the rules. But
When I had a friend that was in the same competition the night before, call me and say, "Hey, do you have an extra sinking line I can use for the lake session tomorrow?" And I'm like, "You don't have a sinking line? Like what?" So yeah, I mean, I think people get into it not really understanding like what the rules are or
Yeah.
how difficult it can be.
Sure.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing, right? You don't know what you don't know. Most people think that it's a bunch of jokers that don't know what they're doing, and to some degree that may be true. But most people that have stuck with it for a long time have really tried to hone their skills and get very good within that set of rules and find ways to catch lots of
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah.
People that don't like fly fishing competitions, I often say, like skiers, the people that ski, there's ski racing and then there's recreational skiers. And the ski racing, most of the recreational skiers don't have any interest in ever racing or
Yeah.
doing downhill or whatever, but it doesn't hurt anything, doesn't change anything for the regular ski racers, recreational skiers. What does happen is that you get gear upgrades from the trickle-down effect. Same
yeah.
thing, mountain biking. There's mountain bike races and there's recreational mountain bikers. Doesn't take anything away. The fly fishing competition is the same, except for some reason the fly fishing, I'm generalizing here, right? Most people probably don't care, but there's a outspoken minority that really hate fly fishing competitions, which has always baffled me because like, well, then don't do them, right?
Yeah.
It's not affecting you at all.
We're
Yeah.
going to force you to watch these.
Right? You don't have to watch anything. They're not televised. You don't have to look at it. But yeah, there's techniques. I mean, for me, I've learned a ton from competing in them, and I think that like if you use the videos I've done with Gilbert and Devin, the techniques we've learned from them, the trickle down effect has positively influenced a lot of people in a way to help them catch more fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, the trickle down effect, whether it's rods, reels, lines, techniques, gear, upgrades and things, can happen when limits are pushed a little bit. It usually benefits everyone, even if you would never have any interest at all in competing, which I totally get.
Yeah.
It's not hurting your own fishing, except that it might give you some new legs up in gear and techniques.
100% agree. Yeah, that's why I like it. Well, we've
We're
got
there.
another podcast under our belts. Like and subscribe to our podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, some of the links that we've talked about are down below. Zeppelin, my dog, is getting really uppity. That means he probably wants to get out of here. Thanks. Peace out.
Adios.
see ya.